Paul.
Hey, Fab. I forgot to change the name on the title.
That's fine. You're learning. All right. So I had one. I don't know how deep we'll be able to go on this, but it's definitely something that's happening, which is, and I don't know if we want to talk about on the employee side of things or the leaders side of things, but what if, my employees can't put in the number of hours that they used to? So let me maybe give a little explanation. We've been in quarantine, working from home for, more than a month now. And, things have settled, definitely. But the reality is kind of like, if I have young kids, if I have a spouse who's also working and this and that, there's definitely a lot more time management required. And in some cases, you just might not be able to put in the same number of hours because that's it. If you have young kids, you have to watch them. If your spouse is also working, you have to split kind of parent duties and whatnot. How and also to that, what I'm starting to see is like daycares are closed like now until July or like schools, when our school's going to reopen in September. Like this is going to be happening for a long time, right? So as a sales leader, and I can address the marketing side of things, like what can I do to help out my team if I'm noticing some people just can't deliver time-wise the amount of things that they used to deliver?
It's a good question, but I think it varies. I think the answer varies tremendously depending on what you do, right?
True.
If you're a manufacturer and your team can't produce what you need to be putting out, well, then, you have to reduce your output, which is actually happening, right? We're seeing it in certain industries, and we're seeing certain things where the industry is being throttled, and because they're deemed non-essential, and things are slowing down. But also you're seeing it even just with Amazon. You take deliveries on products. It's it used to take 2 days, now it's taking a month. So there's obviously some of that what if going on, and their what if is probably they have to deliver a bunch of essential stuff, or they don't have the capacity with their carriers to deliver what they needed to deliver. So it's interesting, but again, it all comes to being logical and looking at what it is you're trying to do and figuring out the new reality. The other day we were talking about flipping up your schedule and trying to find times in the day where things make sense. Well, I think you don't have a choice. You have to do that now. You have to figure out, how am I going to make this new reality work? So if your team doesn't have time to do the normal hours it needs to do, you need to rejig the schedule. You need to rejig the way things work. It's just the reality you have to face. You can't fire them. It's hard to find new people, and you can fire them if they're incompetent, but you can't fire them because of their new reality. It's something that everyone's facing. Yeah,
exactly. And I know, and you're right, it obviously depends on your circumstances. I think it is a matter of rejigging the schedule. If your content writer can't create the same amount of content that they used to, can somebody else on the team with decent copywriting skills take over part of it? Things like that. I think the other part of it though is speaking with team members, and we talked about this I think yesterday when we were talking about like team players versus non-team players. I think you do need to sit down with employees, because I was talking to a friend yesterday who's in sales, and he's lucky enough to still have the job even though his industry's basically been shut down. But there's a stress, right? There's a stress there that I'm not working as much. Yes, I'm helping improve the CRM, and there's other tasks there. So it's not a time management skill, but it's still, there's a fear, right? That, okay, well, now I'm working the equivalent of 4 days a week, not 5. I know I'm not delivering as much. I know I'm not cold calling as much, or I know I'm not writing as much content as I used to, because my day is split up, 2 hours here and then 2 hour break, 2 hours here, 2 hour break, and so on. I think it's up to the leader also to kind of speak to them, saying like, listen, we understand the reality. We know that this is it. Let's try to find a solution. if the output needs to remain the same, let's try to find a solution. I think leaders need to step up a bit and be more aware of the fact that it could be creating a stress for certain employees.
Yeah. But let me throw a wrench in this whole thing. Let me be devil's advocate. I think in a lot of ways, this new situation probably has the opportunity of making you more efficient, of making you produce even more than you used to produce. If you're cutting out 45 minutes up to 3 hours of commuting every day, well, there you go. That's a lot of extra time. If you're now working,
but you also have to take care of the kids instead of just dropping them off, and then so.
Yeah. But if you're working in a quiet environment and you have that extra hour, and you say, okay, I can work now 6 hours a day, but be a lot more efficient than I used to be, than I used to get in my 8 hours because I was socializing. I personally think a lot of efficiency can come from this, and I'm not. The hours of work may go down, but the efficiency may go up. Because if you're sitting down to do your work, you might be doing a lot more work than just chatting. There's a lot of, and I'm not being old school, an old fart here, but there's a lot of communication and interaction that happens at work that is not that efficient. Makes you happy, but it doesn't necessarily create efficiency in certain work environments. So I think, again, if you're a manufacturer on the floor and you need to be there to create something, well, that's different. But if you're some kind of service or creative, which, let's face it, most of large part of North America is not manufacturing. What are we, 10% of people that manufacture, and the labor jobs obviously that are still going on, they're going on, which is great. But the labor jobs that are not, well, then you have no choice. But if you're not in that position, this might actually create more efficiency.
You're right. And I think it's knowing yourself, so for example, for myself, I know I'm good in blocks of 2 hours, right? Anything less than that, I feel I need to stop when I'm still on the top of my things. Anything more than that, I start getting sloppy. So it's also working with, your spouse or your kids or whatever your situation is to be able to give you the optimal amount of time slots that you need. So I know for me, if I try to cut up my day in 1 hour slots, I'm not going to do much. If I cut them up in 4 hour time slots, I'm also not going to be as productive. So I think it's also getting to know yourself as well.
Yeah, but that's huge, Fab, and that you're probably already 90% ahead of many people who don't even realize that. So understanding your reality and understanding how you work best is wonderful, and it's probably why you still are creative and you still are producing and you still are working, because you're capable of understanding that. Now, if you're a good manager, you're going to help your employee find that cruising speed, and for yourself as well, to find out what best works for me. I'm a little bit like you. I need to delve into things. It takes me a while to get my cruising speed. So if you just give me 15 minutes to do something and ask me to change it 15 minutes, I'm not that productive.
Same.
Except for what ifs. But
when there's no technical issues.
Yeah, but it's important to understand your reality and know how to deal with that reality and how to best work it. But I beg to differ that in this new reality, unless you physically need to be in an area or with someone, you can create more efficiency. There are a bunch of opportunities. Cutting out travel time is huge. I understand that taking care of children, that can be huge as well. But apart from that, like putting those hours aside, like that 3 or 4 hours that you're spending with your kids in the day, you can easily, if you like what you do, you can break up your day, spend good quality daytime with your children when they're awake, not just feeding them and ramming homework down their heads, and then go do your work from, 7 to 10. You can work from 7 to 10 in the morning and do another 2 hours in the afternoon, do another 3 hours a night. Hey, you just did your 8 hours and you're probably a hell of a lot more efficient. And you got to do all these things you like in the day. You got to take a walk with your kids, go play at the park, get to recharge your batteries. There's a lot of opportunity here. So I have a hard time, unless it's, like I said, unless it's kind of job where you need to communicate, like you're building and you need to have teamwork. Well, then you can use Teams or Zoom or whatnot. But there are a lot of opportunities. I think if you're smart in this world, there's a lot of opportunities that you can be focused on to make yourself a better person rather than just saying, oh, I know you're just sitting at home. I heard the same story today. A friend of mine was telling me, we both know her, was telling me that one of the reps of her clients was saying, oh, can't do much during COVID, can't talk to anyone, can't call. And she's like, pulling her hair out going, well, this is not true. Right. And some people just have that misconception that if you're not sitting in front of someone that, it's no good, that, communication has to be right in front of each other. But it's not true. You just need to adjust to new reality. People speak on the phone. They're very open. Mm-hmm. So if you can see someone and talk to them, it shouldn't be that different.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think, and you're right. I mean, it's just adapting to it. And I think the leaders have an opportunity to step up if they notice some people are still struggling. And it's prioritizing, right? Like for us, we used to create a whole bunch of different content for web presences, and that's time consuming, right? And so we flipped that up for just creating more shorter content, which is easy, right? Create a video, it's posted, strip out the audio, create more podcast episodes. It's just easier to do. And so we've just had to prioritize and switch some of the work we do.
But it's also more efficient. We're getting more of the message out there. So, it wasn't just about making it easier. It was about getting the content out there and having timely content. I remember our conversation about a month ago when all this started. We're like, what the hell are we going to say about COVID? Like, this changes everything. And, now we've gotten our running speed. And what you actually realize, it's common sense and it's logic and it's applying the principles that you knew before and making the best of something. It's difficult in certain, you granted, certain fields and certain types of businesses, you just can't function. And I understand, and that's, if you're a tattoo artist, for example, you can't tattoo people right now because you can't keep a 2 meter distance giving someone a tattoo. It doesn't work. So, I feel bad for them, but that's going to take a while to come back. But there's probably a lot of people sitting at home thinking, oh, what tattoo am I going to get? And he'll probably, they'll probably get their business later. But
yeah, and I think, if we've talked about that. I think some industries, like a tattoo artist, like musicians, like whatever,
hairdresser,
I think have, like financial situations. I think governments are stepping in to help that part out. But
by the way, I think you might need a hairdresser soon.
I definitely need a hairdresser soon. But I think there's an opportunity there to, like you said, like we're going to get the business eventually. If I was in those spaces, and I would try to double down on a lot of marketing activities that I do. Sharing a lot of past tattoo designs that I've done. Sharing how to manage your hair when it's unmanageable, stuff like that.
But it's true. You're totally right. I totally agree with you. It's wonderful that you say that. It's entirely true. Sorry, I cut you off. I got all excited.
No, that's it. And then musicians, obviously there's some big bands out there that are doing it, but kind of republishing old concerts or not republishing, but resharing old concerts, sharing clips and songs, or even you in your home studio kind of doodling on new riffs and things like that. I think we don't have a choice if we're in those industries to take the opportunity to really put yourself out there. I understand that there's some financial constraints, obviously. You still have bills to pay. But so that would be step one, figure that out. Step two would be put yourself out there more.
Yep. Yeah, you definitely have to be creative. It's a strange analogy, but I'll put it out there anyways. It's like you've been studying in university for 4 years and now you've got your degree and you've got to go out and get a job. Well, that's what we're at now. It's a new reality. We've got to figure out how to go out and get a job, how to go out and make what we do work and help the economy and move forward.
Yeah.
Hey, this was a good session as usual, Mr. Fab.
As usual, Mr. Paul. Thanks.
Maybe I'll start selling hair clippers, of which I think you'll be a buyer.
Yes.
And I need the hair growth product.
There you go.
See you tomorrow, folks.
Bye, everybody.